guys, is this, right? Through the long and short of it, they really talk about that short-term activation and that long-term brand building. And this is a framework that actually I want to work with from an out-of-home perspective, right? As to how we can show up and use different tactics to secure both short-term sales uplift and short-term savings in the minds of consumers and more long-term brand building through the channel. Okay, now the way we're going to talk about that, and come with me guys, because we're about to go on a journey, is through what I call the Guttenberg Method and the Binet Method, right? Anybody, hopefully there are a few in the room who may be familiar with both legendary actor Steve Guttenberg, a legendary actor, and Steve Buscemi. So we're going to go on a little journey and talk about the short-term Guttenberg Method and the long-term Buscemi Method of using out-of-home to capture attention. Now, if I take you back to set the scene for the Guttenberg Method, I was about 8 years old and I was watching the legendary Police Academy 3 back in training with my dad. And my dad turned to me halfway through the movie and he said, "Morty," my middle name is Mortifier, for those wondering, so call me Morty. Not important, but ultimately it's part of this presentation. "Morty, you see that actor? That's Steve Guttenberg, and he's a star." Thank you, Dad. And ultimately this blew my mind because I just really felt drawn to this actor. I was so impressed. I knew in that moment, that's what I want to be. I want to be a star. I want to be famous was ultimately my life's ambition. Now, I understand the irony of using Steve Guttenberg as the benchmark for fame. Not all that famous anymore. Or the illustrious cast of Police Academy 3 back in training. But what my quest for fame has brought me to is advertising. And probably where we are obsessed with attention. And again, as advertisers, naturally we are obsessed with capturing that attention. And if we look at Binet and Field from their text, what they talk about is this concept of brand fame. This concept actually of fame-driving campaigns. And those that capture the attention, capture the imagination, and essentially prompt consumers, otherwise known as people, to share their enthusiasm on and offline. These campaigns are 4 times more effective at generating what they call excess share of voice, right? Now, this is kind of the most obvious insight ever, because the only thing cooler than paying for advertising, right, is not paying for advertising. How can we prompt our audience, how can we prompt consumers to do that heavy lifting for us, to build that reach extension for us through word of mouth, online, offline, shareability, right? To immediately secure mental availability in the short term for our audience. Essentially, what we're talking about is building the shepherd's pie, right? Because what's a shepherd's pie? You got last night's bolognese, you got 2 nights ago's mashed potatoes. That's efficiency, baby. That's a new deal in of itself, right? And that's what we're talking about too. How can we leverage our audience, right? How can we build short-term salience to build this brand quickly and get people talking and get them excited? So the way we look at it from our home perspective is what we call the online-offline fame interplay. Looking at the interplay between online and offline channels and how we can actually prompt greater shareability, greater amplification, and greater interplay between the two. So what we're going to start by focusing on is short-term salience play, right? The short of it is offline to online, using out-of-home as a canvas to prompt really great online shareability. Because what we know is this, right?